Hello everyone, this is Darcinovia here. Now, before you type in the comment section about respecting James Cameron's word as law about, oh, Terminator 3 Rise of the Machine is no longer canon! Well, I hate to break it to you, the Genesis was once canon, so fuck off with that shit. I'm talking about Terminator 3 as a film on its own as part of the Terminator series. And I'm giving my honest opinion about it. And considering the fact that I grew up watching Terminator 1 and 2, I feel like I have more than a right to talk about this film. Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, well, I'll get into my opinions about the movie later. I'm just going to talk with the history with this movie. Terminator 3 was a movie I was excited for many years, when I was waiting. From, when I saw Terminator, 1, and 2 in the 90s. This was the first Terminator film I actually saw in theaters. Yes, I saw this one in the theater, along with Salvation. Unlike the other Terminator sequels, this is the only film in the franchise post-2 that didn't spoil everything in the trailer. Because that's the problem with the movies that came after Terminator 3. Almost the entire movie gets spoiled in the trailers. This is the only film after 2 that doesn't spoil everything. Now, I'm only saying this because certain things from the trailer were not revealed. Like Catherine Brewster being John Connor's future wife, John Connor in the future being dead, the ending for Terminator 3, all this stuff was not shown in the trailers. And when I saw it in the theater, some of the stuff I was actually surprised. Now, some people are going to type, then, okay, you have a problem with you don't have a problem with John Connor being dead, but didn't you rant in your community post about that? Okay, here's the problem. John Connor being dead in the future is not the same as him being dead as a kid, and I'll get into that in my Terminator Dark Fate review in more detail. Now, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, in my opinion, was a very disappointing movie. Because there's so much I expected out of Terminator 3. That there's just so much I wanted out of the film. And it didn't live up to the hype. Terminator 3 was hyped to high heaven. These even before there was an official announcement for Terminator 3. And this was one of the last movies that Arnold Schwarzenegger did before he became governor of California as well. And Terminator 3 would be the start of, well, a formula in the Terminator franchise that they haven't escaped from. I know 2 started it, but 3, it was ridiculous. But first, I'm going to talk about the positives of Terminator 3. Because despite me having issues with this film and being disappointed of what could have been, there's still some good things about Terminator 3. One, the future war scenes are great. They're not as exciting as the stuff we see from Terminator 1 or 2, but they're still epic. It still has the look and feel of the James Cameron version of the future war. 2, the Terminators, at least the T-800, looks like the classic model, unlike Genesis and Dark Fate, which look like shit. Another good thing about this is the opening scene and the ending. The ending was ballsy. And I think, watching this movie, I think the actor they chose for John Connor, I don't think was that bad. And not as bad as I remember. Considering, I feel like that this version of John Connor, I think if it had a better script, would have worked much better. So I don't think the actor was the problem for John Connor. I just think the script was. At least, I'm just saying a positive they got. Because the actor who plays John Connor does resemble, Kyle Reese. Which he should because, well, he's his son. Another positive about this film, I think that CG has held up pretty well, considering the movie's over 16 years old at this point. It has held up very well in that department. I think the action is still entertaining. And I think, in my opinion, the Arnold Schwarzenegger was good as he always is in these films. He's the best part about it. But there's a lot more negatives, unfortunately. The negatives, let's see. Using time travel again, rather than and having the same good Terminator versus evil Terminator, which that was done in Terminator 2. I think they should have done something different. The dialogue is terrible. There's unnecessary plot holes, like John Connor being like 13 in Terminator 2, despite the fact he was 10. And some of the retcons they did to Terminator 2, didn't make any sense. In fact, there's a lot of things about this movie that doesn't make any sense. And it does have quite a bit of plot holes, honestly. And the Terminator, the TX, not a fan of the TX. I never liked the TX, honestly. The actress I think they chose for the TX, I don't think she did a bad job for the material that was given to her. But the issue I have with the TX is just she isn't that scary. If you look at the T-1000 and every scene the T-1000 is in Terminator 2, the thing is terrifying. Every time he says something to someone, they're going to die. The way the TX does it is just cringeworthy. I like your gun. I like your car. It's like it's so much cringe. I just cannot take the TX seriously. And not to mention some of the cringe moments with the comedy. It's just like, oh, God. I know Terminator 2 had some moments of some comedic moments, but they were so subtle about it that it wasn't in your face like Terminator 3 was. And another thing I hated about, the TX, which is another thing I'm going to talk about, when the TX killed people, I don't buy it as a good infiltrator unit. I just am not terrified of the TX. I mean, compare this to the T-800 in Terminator 1. That thing was scary, considering the fact that it could be anywhere. It was difficult to kill. It was an efficient killing machine, and every time, you see it on screen, you have this music that played that sound like someone's heart is beating. And not to mention, you could be afraid of that. The T-1000, could become anyone, anything, pretty much. The TX could do some of the same thing as the T-1000, but I felt like some of the stuff they did was completely stupid. Like giving the TX some weapons, like from the future, like a plasma rifle. It's like, wait a minute. Why does it need guns? What the fuck? It's just dumb. It really is stupid. And I know some of the stuff I'm talking about is nitpicky here, but there's some problems with this movie. I think the score is forgettable. It isn't memorable like it is in the first film. Like I said, the best things about this movie is the opening and the ending. And I feel like so much crap happens at once in this film that the plot doesn't have much time to breathe. It's like it's almost the same length as the first Terminator movie, but the first Terminator film, there was breathing room for the story to progress. Terminator 3, it's just one action scene after another, it feels like. It doesn't give the audience a chance to calm down and just absorb the information that's given to them. And what information they do give them, they just do it in some stupid way. And honestly, Terminator 3, in my opinion, it isn't a bad film, at least not to me. I think it's a guilty pleasure, and I do feel like, there was some good ideas in Terminator 3 that were badly executed. I mean, I do like the fact that we finally get to see Judgment Day happen. I mean, it's talked about in Terminator 2 and Terminator 1, but we don't get to see it. And we actually do get to see it happen. And the way Terminator 3 ended took some balls. I mean, it was a bittersweet ending, which is something that all the Terminator movies, have. and I think it suits the theme of the series. I just don't really like the nihilistic tone that Terminator 3 has. There's no hopeful message like there was in 2. Terminator 3 kind of feels like a cash grab, not as much as, well, we'll get into that movie in a few days. It's just so much more could have been done with this film. I mean, when I was a kid, I was hoping for a future war movie where we'd actually finally, watch the future war and see what was John Connor all about in the future. And we're like 3 movies in, we still haven't seen that John Connor. And we likely never will, unfortunately. I mean, Terminator 3 isn't offensive. I don't think it's awful. In my opinion, I think Terminator 3 is, a guilty pleasure at best. And I don't know. It's not that good. It really isn't. But I'll take it over Genesis any day of the week. Terminator 3, if you haven't seen it yet, and you don't expect too much. Just don't. And I don't care if it's no longer canon. I would rather take Terminator 3 over what happened in Dark Fate. And that's all I'm going to say. This is Darcenovia over and out. See you guys next time with what I consider, in my opinion, to be the most underrated film in the franchise, Terminator Salvation. See you guys next time, and hopefully we won't all get terminated by AI in the future. Later.